Hey guys, how's it going today? Today we are going to do another episode of Play or Neigh, and the game that we are going to do it on today is Stonehearth. So, of course, with my Play or Neigh episode series, basically I do a kind of a review about the game wherein I play the game, and the requirement is that I would already have spent quite a large time playing the particular game. In this case, I've played this game for probably around 20 or 30 hours already. So that basically means that I know all of the bad stuff about the game, all of the good stuff about the game, and I will be highlighting those points throughout the game. And then at the end of the video, which should probably last more than an hour, since this game is quite a long, drawn out game. For instance, on the one map I spent playing 8 hours on one map, so yeah, the game can get pretty long, but we should probably just spend a little bit more than an hour. So at the end of the hour I will render my decision on whether you guys should play the game or whether you shouldn't play the game. Basically giving a recommendation for the game, or just totally not giving a recommendation, because some of these games these days are pretty shitty. And this game in particular, I will tell you right from the beginning, costs $30. So that is pretty close to the kind of money that you would pay for a AAA game. So this game really has a lot to live up to, especially regarding the price. $30 is quite a lot for a game. So first off, this is Stonehearth. We will go through the settings. By the way, this is pre-release, so the game isn't released yet. They actually have been working on the game since November of 2012, so almost 3 years that they have been working on the game. So yeah, that's quite a long time. I don't have a release date for you, but it should probably be maybe within the year, but like definitely not even within 6 months. I would say more than 6 months the game might be released then. So we have music and effects volume. Here you can say the game to run in a 64-bit or a 32-bit. I'm running the 64 because I have a 64-bit operating system. And then you can disable the LUI GIT. Now this game is created in LUA language. Now if you don't know about programming language, LUA is the Moon language. It's a programming language like C# and C++ and all of those other languages, and Java. So this is the language that the game is written in. We are running the game on the full basically quality. High quality graphics, ambient occlusion, anti-aliasing is set to full. You can only put it off or a little at this stage, but obviously it's still pre-release, so we can expect that the graphics will improve with later releases. The shadow detail I put off, and that is basically because it causes a whole lot of lag, but we will get into lag once we actually play the game. Then I will show you guys. The draw distance you can set to 1000, but nothing really draws in. Basically draw distance is view distance, but I will show you guys. I put the draw distance or the view distance to the very least, and you guys will see what I mean. It doesn't make any difference once you're inside the game. So for all the intents and purposes, the graphics are on the highest quality except for shadows, but I will tell you guys a little bit about that once we get into the game. So this is my main game, Silkweed Valley. I've been playing it for quite a while. I have about a village of 30 guys, but it has started to lag quite a lot. And I will explain more about lag once we actually get into the game. So I'm going to start a completely new game. You get a peaceful mode where there's no enemies, and then you get a normal mode where you will actually face these goblins. The main antagonists in the game are goblins, so they raid your town every now and then, and for a little bit of excitement we will be taking the mode that actually has goblins in it. So this is where you select where you want to start. Basically, at the right there you can see the vegetation, wildlife and minerals are shown. Basically that's not a huge indication. You can just think for yourself. If you place yourself here in this location, then you're very far away from the mountains. So the mountains are your main resource of iron and coal and gold and all of that. So putting yourself far away from the mountains isn't a very smart thing to do. Putting yourself around here is a pretty good thing, but I've played the game quite a lot and I have learned my own kind of playstyle, and I like putting myself in between a lot of mountains. So I'm gonna put myself just here because it's just 2 away from that side of the mountains, 2 away from that side of the mountains. So I'm basically surrounded by mountains because mountains is very important. It would also be pretty good to place myself here, but you see there, exactly there is a ridge, and I don't like placing myself on a ridge, so I will just put myself exactly here, and that should be pretty good. So we will embark right here. You can also re-roll the map. It basically generates a completely new map then, but I'm quite happy with this map right here. So let us embark. Basically the game is a civilization game. Some people call it a civilization game, other people call it a god game, where you play a god and you have control over your civilization and all of that. But yeah, we can basically call it a civilization game, I guess. So at the beginning you place your banner. I will place my banner right here, and we will call this place Planktopia. Obviously, if you guys have watched some of my other videos, my in-game name is Plank. So here we have our guys. You start with 7 guys, and your village basically grows as you build. So the first thing we really need to take care of is all of these trees. So we access the harvest menu and we tell them to mine all of these trees, to cut all of these trees down. Basically they cut the trees down relatively quickly. You will see they almost fall down like flies, since they just chop the trees once or twice. It's not a really long drawn out process to get rid of the trees. Then right after that we will designate a zone. Basically, if I can explain to you, the stuff in the game, we will just do it like that, and we will select only wood. So they will only bring wood to this area, but I will explain in a little bit more depth just now. So basically this is the harvest menu, this is the build menu, this is the designate zones menu, and this is where you control your army and defend your guys against goblins. And then you have your manager, where you manage all of your villagers. You have a workshop, which now we can't even click on it, it doesn't do anything. Then you can organize parties, and here you can do bulletins and all of that stuff. So the thing that just popped up here has disappeared, but when you click here, you can once again interact with the message that has just popped up. So this guy says that he wants to give me 1 hoe, and I will accept that. 1 hoe for free is pretty good. So we will first off make an area for a farm. Now one thing that has actually to do with the farms in this game is that if you make your farm too big, you will get a whole lot of lag. I don't know why that is. It's probably because the game isn't fully optimized yet and all of that, so it's quite understandable that the game will still have a few stuff wrong with it and a few errors here or there, because the game isn't fully optimized yet and all of that, you know. So basically the thing is that you can't play this game for too long currently in the current state. When you start getting into very long games, like if you play the game for maybe around the 3 hours mark, maybe even the 2 hours mark, then you start getting a lot of lag, like really a lot of lag. And that's basically due to, like I said, the game not being optimized correctly and all of that. But it's honestly not a huge problem. I mean, you can still enjoy the game. It just basically sucks that you can't enjoy the game to the full, you know, like you can only enjoy the game for a little while and then you have to basically quit because the lag gets too much. So in this area right here, I have created a trapping area, which basically this guy is my trapper and he will create traps and it will catch wildlife. This guy is a farmer and I created a farm here for him, but I will create many more farms. Basically, like I said, you can't create a farm that is too large, because for some reason if you create a very large farm then it creates a lot of lag. So yeah, that's one of the bad things about the game not being fully optimized yet. But we get around that by just basically creating a bunch of farms, not having one huge farm. We just basically create a bunch of little small farms and that works absolutely fine. It's basically just a little bit of a inconvenience creating a lot of farms instead of one big one, but in the end it still has the same purpose. So the most important thing in the game is corn. So I planted about 3 corn farms and just 1 or 2 turnip farms. The turnips aren't very nutritious. Now nutritiousness in the game is quite important, since if you don't give your villagers nutritious food, then they won't be very happy and they won't be well fed. When they are well fed, they perform better, they work quicker and all of that. So I'm just once again clearing a bunch of the trees here. Basically I'm gonna clear all of the trees except these over here, because these over here are going to have my wildlife in it. Wildlife only comes when you have trees. In the tree areas you see already here, I've caught a bunny in here. You see there, the little bunny. Om nom nom at the bottom left. So the bunnies and the foxes, you get a bunch of different wildlife. They only come out in the wooded areas, all of these trees areas. So they shouldn't venture into these areas too much. You do sometimes get bunnies in these areas, but really not too much. So the bottom area we're not going to cut down. I will just create another stockpile over here. And we will include everything in there except wood, since we will have one separate stockpile only for wood. I found that that is a very good way to create your stockpiles, since you generally want wood in one area and then you build all of your workshops around the wood area, because otherwise if you build your workshop right here and you have a stockpile over there with wood in it, then your guy is going to walk all the way up there to the wood there and then walk all the way back and craft what he wants, and that's not very efficient. So it's better to keep your wood all in one area and build all of your workshops around that one particular area. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to get more farmers. One farmer simply isn't enough. I generally want around 4 farmers, and currently I cannot promote any more farmers since I don't have a hoe. So it says here farmer's hoe required, and that is created by the carpenter. So we need a carpenter. And a carpenter needs to be a smart person. So you basically click on these little hammers to see the mind of your workers. You generally want a smart person, but also he has to have a little bit of body. So this guy is very good. He has a high body and a high mind. So we will change this guy into the carpenter. And you basically just click on the job and then you say approve and he will become that job. You can see him being promoted there. I missed it now, but I will promote many more guys and you guys should be able to see it. So he's now going to collect wood and we will put his workshop right here. And he will go collect one wood and he will create his workshop right there. And now I can tell him to make a bunch of stuff. Firstly, I will tell him to make a constant amount of hoes, at least 3 hoes, and at least 5 weapons. And then a bunch of beds. The beds sell for quite a lot, so I will create about 20 beds since I will be selling them throughout. About 5 chairs, about 4 tables for 1, and about 3 of those, 5 of these. Okay, the game will just auto-save every now and then. Hopefully it won't cause the recording software to lag all that much. So we're just basically telling this carpenter to stock the stockpile with a constant amount of these wooden frames, doors, beds, so that as I build beds and houses and all of that stuff, it will basically just be already there. The requirements for the house will already be available. Since every house requires a set amount of chairs, set amount of beds and all of that stuff. So we will create about 3 of those, about 15 of these since these sell very high also, about 5 of those, only about 2 of those, and we need armor also to defend our little place, about 10 of those. So he will basically now start creating constantly. You can already see here he's created a bunch of hoes and swords and all that. So now we will create more farmers. Farmers need to be guys with a lot of body, and that will basically mean we will promote this guy to a farmer. And the daily update will show us when we are able to get new villagers. Firstly, we need food. Now, having enough food in the very first day is absolutely impossible since you need to grow the food first. The morale we will be able to keep very high and the net worth will grow extremely quickly. You guys will see that extremely quickly we will be able to get the net worth up very high. This guy we will also promote to a farmer. And when the goblins come, then I will be creating a bunch of warriors. So currently this guy is just waiting. He's my little farmer. He will just wait until... Oh, here you can see some guys getting promoted. Basically they just pick up the weapon and a little glowy thing comes around them. So they will plow the fields and plant the crops and all of that. And then in a few days, it usually takes about 2 days for the crops to grow. Then we will have food and they will start harvesting the food. The food takes quite a while, unfortunately, but there's nothing we can do about that. So in the meanwhile, I will just basically start explaining to you guys what the game is. Obviously at the beginning I have to get my city up and running. I really can't spend too much time just explaining to you guys. So basically the game is a god game. You are omnipotent, you can go around and view the entire map. Basically you can see stars in the background. Basically you're just on a floating world, on a floating map, but the map is massive, like literally you can build to your heart's content. The map is really crazy big. So we have this little area and it's surrounded by a lot of mountains, which I like. The mountains will contain coal and tin and iron and all of the usual stuff that you find in these god games to create weapons, and you will eventually be able to build a massive castle, but obviously not in this playthrough. In this playthrough we should be able to get a nice little city going with a few houses and all of that. So basically, let's see what this guy has to sell. He only is selling pelts and a little bit of wool and some refined leather, but I don't really need any of this. The food I will definitely need. The food I will buy. So I will sell all of my beds that I've been building, and then I will buy a bunch of food. Let's take the squirrel jerky, buy 10 of that, normal jerky 10 of that, and the raccoon jerky 10 of that. So now I've got a bunch of food. My guys will immediately rush to this location where the jerky has been deposited, and they will start eating. Okay, just another save incoming there. About every 5 minutes I think the game will autosave, which basically just helps you keep the game up to date with the saves, because obviously it is early access, like I've said, so there's a bunch of stuff that's not completely flushed out yet. The graphics will eventually improve, the gameplay will eventually improve, and the frame rate and all of that is currently not absolutely flushed out. As I said, later on your city will grow, you'll get more guys, and especially with the path finding. If we click here at the bottom, you will see an indication of what resources are being used and what they are being used for. So at the moment we are hovering around 90% idle. Unless I execute the action for them to do, then it will go up a little bit, but about 90% idle at this stage is pretty good. Let's see what this guy has. He basically wants 9 wooden window frames, and then he will give me 3 curtains. That's not a good exchange, so I will decline that exchange. So we're around 90% idle constantly. The thing that really pulls the most resources later on the game is pathfinding and LUA. Now the LUA cannot be avoided, but the pathfinding can be avoided. One thing that I found is when you build roads, these roads, you can actually build a whole bunch of roads, stone roads and all of that. When you build roads, the pathfinding engine in this game, currently how it is, I'm not saying that it will stay like this forever. Obviously, like I said, there's a lot of flashing out to do and programming and streamlining and all of that. So these problems that I'm highlighting right now will probably not be present in the final version. But currently, if you build a road, the pathfinding engine constantly works out with the guys, with your workers. For instance, let's say if a guy has to walk all the way from here to there, and you build a road over here, then the pathfinding engine will do a bunch of calculations and determine whether it will be quicker for him to walk all the way here or walk up here and then to the left and then walk down again, because the roads basically increase the speed that you walk at, but a bunch of calculations have to be done to determine the most efficient route, obviously. So currently that engine, the engine that determines all of those calculations, really makes the game slow. You will see later on, after about an hour, the game's pathfinding becomes massive, and it just drains the game's processing power down to a level which basically causes constant lag. So yeah, basically my PC can run any game. It can run Dragon Age Inquisition on full graphics. It can run Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor on full graphics, like really AAA games on full graphics. So my PC shouldn't have a problem with a game like this, but it is having a problem with it later on in the game because, like I said, the streamlining of all of the assets isn't done correctly. So it's not my PC's fault, it's just simply the streamlining of the game that isn't done correctly yet, because, like I said, the game is still in early access. So that is basically an explanation of the lag that we will later on encounter in the game. I will not talk about the lag anymore. I just wanted to explain to you guys, if you guys are currently going to buy this game, this is the problems that you will be encountering. But if you buy the game later on upon final release, all of these problems will probably not be present. So basically at the bottom you will see this thing jumping constantly. It's just basically when I execute the order, like let's say I tell them to build quarters. Quarters is basically your living arrangements. When I tell them to build one of these, you will see the thing jumping up quite high, because they have to make a bunch of new evaluations about which route is the most beneficial and all of that. So we will build 2 houses right now, just like that. It's not completely necessary for them to be equally spaced or anything like that. And my carpenter is constantly leveling up because he will be constantly crafting stuff. As I build houses, he will just create new stuff. Like, for instance, I told him to create 30 beds. So if I sell 10 of these beds, these are the beds by the way, if I tell my guys to sell 10 of the beds, then he will create 10 new beds. That's why at the beginning I told him to maintain these levels. He has to maintain 20 beds maintained, 3 hoes and all of that. So even if I promote a farmer, then he will create a backup hoe constantly. So that's actually a very good system that is already implemented into the game. You don't have to constantly tell your guy to craft a set amount of stuff. Like basically when you run out of beds, then you would have to tell him craft new beds constantly. But with this system, you just have to tell him once to craft a set amount of stuff, and he will craft as soon as the resources go below a set amount. So that is actually one very good implementation that is already in the game, and I really like that. Props to the developers of the game for implementing that already this early on, because it makes life so much easier. So you can see my crops here are coming in. If you click on it, you will see it's not yet edible. If you click on these, it's basically ready to be spun into a thread. This is silkweed, and the silkweed you use to create clothes. This is my corn, and the rest are turnips and corn seedlings and all of that. So like I said, it takes about 2 to 3 days for the food to come in. But one good thing is that, oh, by the way, you guys can see here they are building the foundation and all of that. While I'm talking, you guys can just look at all of the nice little things that they do. They collect wood and then they run back and build the floor and all of that. And it's lunchtime now, by the way. So on the next day, basically up here is the day-night cycle. It runs all the way around and then it's night. and then it runs all the way around again, then it's the next day. And at the beginning of every day, at the start of every new day, you get a evaluation. Basically it shows you your food, your morale, and your net worth of your village. Now your net worth is calculated on all of your stock, including your houses. So if you have a lot of stock but not a lot of houses, you will still be able to get the net worth goal. So if you meet all of those goals, the food goal, the net worth goal, and the morale goal, if you guys are happy enough, then a new villager will join your town. One single villager will join your town. And that is how you grow your town. You start with 7, like I said at the beginning, but eventually you get a shitload. In my other playthrough I have about 30 villagers, so that's really quite long. By the way, I will just speed up the game now, because you guys have already basically seen how the town runs at the basic speed for the past maybe 10 minutes or whatever. So from here on out, we will basically constantly be running the game on twice speed, so that you guys can see the game evolving more quicker and all of that. Because basically if we run the game at twice speed, oh, there's the daily update. Basically if we run the game at twice speed, then you guys will be able to see twice as much as what you would normally be able to do. So Dara has just joined our little village, and we can now go to the Hearthlings, and there we see Dara. And we can view Dara's stats. Dara is quite spirited. So we can now assign anything to Dara if we want. We can make her a hunter or a warrior or a farmer or anything like that, but I'm fine with Dara just staying as she is currently. So that's basically how you make your city bigger and you evolve your town and all of that. If goblins do not attack us, luckily we are not on the very bottom level. Let's just see what this guy wants over here. I will just basically sell a bunch of my beds over here, sell some of those, and we can sell 2 of those, and that should be fine. Unfortunately this guy doesn't have more food for me to purchase, but that's fine. So basically we are high up. That's why I selected the location. You can see here at the bottom is the valley floor. All of this is the bottom valley floor where goblins probably are at. But we are not 1 level up, but we are 2 levels up. So we are 2 levels away from the goblins, but the goblins can climb and raid your village. So we won't be safe forever. So, but we're in a pretty good location. It's secluded. We basically can just build the fence all the way over here, and then we will be safe, since we have the mountain at our sides and at our back and at this side also. So this is really a good location, and that's why you really need to put a little bit of thought into the beginning location. Probably when you start playing the game, your first build will just be a fuck up. Basically you will just try to explore the game, and you will get raided by goblins and your city will get destroyed, and then after that you will basically know how to build your game. It's obviously a learning process throughout, but I've obviously played a bunch of the game already. I'm past the learning phase, so we will just create a new stockpile over here like that. 15 by 15 is pretty good. And once again we will just exclude wood. These 2 stockpiles will remain our wood stockpiles. So they're just busy building this house. They build scaffolding around it, and they build the wood. They climb on the roof and build the roof and all of that. It's really quite a detailed building process. I really like the building process and all of that. So yeah, what else can I say? We haven't started mining yet. First off, I usually just make sure that my village has enough food. Once they have enough food, then I start worrying about other stuff like getting better armor for my warriors and getting iron and building a bigger castle and all of that. So, if I can speak a little bit about the... Oh, here's another trader. Let's just see what he wants. He wants to trade 5 wooden frames for 8 bolts of cloth. That's very good. That's a very good trade. So, I just have to create 5 wooden window frames. Let's see what I told this one to create. 5 wooden window frames. No, it's not that one. Okay, so I already told him to create 4. I will just tell him to create 10 more. So now he's going to create 4 and 10. So he's going to create 14. So there will be a constant supply of 14 wooden window frames. That's how this system works, by the way. If you tell him to create something new, then he will create that new thing in addition to what you have already told him to create. Okay, so if I can tell you guys a little bit about how the job system works and all of that. Your workers start off as just normal workers. Then you can promote them into any of these basic stuff over here. I don't think this one is implemented yet, this job over here. It's probably not implemented yet. I haven't been able to reach this job yet, so I don't think it's implemented in the game yet. But if you turn your guy into a blacksmith, once he reaches the maximum level of a blacksmith, you can then promote him into a more refined, specialized type of a blacksmith, like a goldsmith and a ironsmith and a whatever smith, a jeweler or whatever, you know. So you get specializations in the game also. For instance, with a trapper, if your trapper becomes a high enough level, you can then promote him into a shepherd. And the shepherd you can promote into an even more refined version of a farmer, like a farmer of sheep or of cows or of whatever. And the trapper you can also promote into another type of specialization over here. So you actually get specializations. Also with your warriors, they start off as just normal little footmen, but eventually they can become knights, like really powerful knights. So that's basically how the specialization and the job system works. It's a pretty good system and it does the job pretty well. I'm sure eventually, once the game is fully released, there will be many more jobs, because already there's quite a few. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So that is the job system. At the bottom here, you can click on town info and it will show you your net worth, your overall happiness, your food happiness, which is basically your quality of the food, and the shelter happiness. Currently, they're not happy with the shelter happiness because for the past 2 or 3 nights they have had to sleep on the floor, unfortunately. So you see it is now day 4 and I meet all of the requirements and I accept, and another guy... Okay, let's just see what this guy says. Blah blah blah. You make for us or else. 7 raccoon jerky. Okay. So he basically wants 7 raccoon jerky, otherwise he's going to blast us out of the water. That was basically a ransom attempt from the goblins. So I will buy a bunch of raccoon jerky, just so that my guys won't get attacked by the goblins, since the goblins are quite powerful at the beginning. Unless you have a bunch of warriors, you really are going to get decimated by the goblins, because a bunch of goblins attack your city at the beginning. So because I don't want to get taken out at the very beginning by goblins, I will satisfy the goblins. And there we go. We just say okay, and the goblins are now happy. They took their 7 jerky, and it only cost me a little bit of gold. Really a small amount of inconvenience just to get away from the goblins. So they are building my second place. One of the things that I will comment about is that currently there's no priority system in the game. I would like to be able to see a priority system, because instead of just finishing this building over here, instead of just building it finished, they will stop halfway through and start building another building, which really I don't like a whole lot. It's very inefficient, and in the end you have two unbuilt buildings where instead of doing that they should have just concentrated on one building and finished building the one building. Because I can click on the building and you can't set any priority, like you can't make a priority for this building, unfortunately. So I would have liked to be able to have that setting where you can click on a building and make that the first priority. Then they will build this building completely finished, and then after they have completed that task they will take on the lower priority tasks. But it's not a huge inconvenience. I'm sure that hopefully eventually they will implement that in the game. I'm sure they will think of that. Obviously the developers obviously also play the game, so they will also probably think of that little inconvenience that is currently in the game. So I will just place another house over there and just tell them to build that. Come on now. Come on. And we say build. You can also build your own house, like you can lay a huge floor if you want to, put walls around it and put like 20 beds in it if you really want to. But I found that this little houses that are basically the preset houses, they work pretty good. I don't have a problem building my village full of these instead of just having one huge house, which you could do if you really wanted to. You could create one huge floor, put walls around it and put like 20 beds in it, but I like the aesthetic of having a bunch of small little houses. It makes your village feel more like a village instead of a custom crafted kind of a thing. So you can see they go and collect wood, and then they are making the wood floor. They can make a huge amount of wood floor with just one wood block. So it's not as if it requires one wood block for one wooden floor. You can actually create a bunch from just one wooden block. So that's pretty cool. But I have abundance of wood, obviously. I don't have any problem with having enough wood. So what should we do next? The food is coming along nicely, but I should probably create more farms, since the previous day... Okay, here's a caravan. Let's see what this guy wants. You like to give me 2 farmers' hoes in exchange for 2 baskets of berries. Sure, I'll do that trade. I have a bunch of farmers' hoes that I don't use. So I just will create more farms over here. Basically the previous day I only just made the quota for food. I think I almost lost it there, so I will just create a little bit more of the corn farms, so that I don't just linger on the brink of having enough food, since if you don't reach the food quota for just a single day, then unfortunately you lose out on another hearthling joining your city. So that's not very good. Even missing out on just one hearthling really isn't very good. So since it will mean that exponentially the productivity of your entire city will go down, since you're missing one member, and they are quite valuable. Like at the moment, if I really wanted to, I would have made Dara and Daff into farmers, and then made Zed into a mason, because mason is also required, and then I would have made the last guy into a weaver, and I wouldn't have any free workers. So that's basically how short I currently am on workers. So workers are really quite important. So I've sold that, and I will take a little bit of the spool thread, buy a little bit of that. Bolt of cloth is very important, and I'll just buy a few of these, little bit of clothes, and that should be fine. And here comes the daily update, and you can now see I'm way ahead of everything. My guys are 2 points happier than what they need to be. I have way more enough food and way more enough net worth. So basically from here on out it's just gonna be very easy. This guy wants 7 raccoon jerky, and here you go, and they are happy with that. Basically if I decline him, then I will be attacked within the day. Like within 1 day the goblins will spawn and they will come rape me. So I don't want that, especially because I don't have any warriors currently. But warriors are pretty useless. Once you create a warrior, they don't really contribute to the rest of your colony. So I will delay making warriors for as long as possible, so that my guys can remain productive and all of that, because having an unproductive member of your society in the form of a warrior really isn't very good. So what do we really need to do more than that? Our farms will progress pretty good. We have enough storage space. We could create another trapper, and that's actually a pretty good idea. So I will create another trapper location over here, just like that. Come on, I know you can do it. Doesn't want to create the thing here in the woods, unfortunately. You can create it in the woods like I did here. Let's try on this side. Okay, there we go. And basically I am waiting for this guy to create a what do you call it? A mason's hammer and chisel. Unfortunately it's very low down in the queue. There it is. So craft one right now, please. I want one of these right now, because I want to create a mason, and then with the mason you can eventually craft tools to create a blacksmith, and with a blacksmith you can craft tools to make some of the other more advanced guys, like a mining pick and a trapper's knife and all of that. All of those are created by the blacksmith. So it's really quite a long process just to get a specialized miner and a specialized trapper, but yeah, that's part of the game. So those guys are looking as if they are walking on the air, but they're actually just walking on top of the roof. You see they're busy building the roof. They haven't finished building the roof of this one yet. Another thing about the game is that, like I said, obviously there's a few basically streamlining issues in the game code. If you have the house's roofs up like I did just now, the lag increases in the game for some reason. So if you play like this, you will have much more lag than what you would have if you played like this. So this is why I'm keeping the roofs down, just so that you guys know. I do everything in this game for a reason, because I've basically, after playing more than 20 hours of the game, I found out every way possible to reduce the lag footprint that I create, so that later on in the game you have as little lag as possible. Because you guys can already see at the beginning the idle was around 90%, but at this stage it's around 70%. If we go and we don't do anything, don't move the camera or anything like that, it's hovering around 70%, 63%, 77%, so it's around 70%. So the idle percentage has already gone down from 90%, which it was previously, to 70%. And you guys will see eventually, unfortunately, it will go down to around 20%, and eventually you will have no idle percent. Around like the 5-hour mark or 6-hour mark of playing a constant map, your village basically just grows to the point where there's too many things happening at once for your village to keep up with and for the processing of the game to keep up with. So yeah, it's basically just a little bit of a drawback from playing a game which isn't completely streamlined yet and all of that. But the game is still very fun, obviously. I am definitely not upset that the game has these little issues. You should just basically be happy that you are even able to play a game which isn't yet supposed to be out, you know. The game isn't supposed to be out yet, but I mean, these days they release all games, almost all games come out in a beta or an alpha or a pre-release stage for people to play it. They didn't used to do that. They used to, like, if you think about years ago, they used to release a demo of a game, and then a few months after that they will release the full game in its completed state. But yeah, these days the guys, a lot of developers take chances by releasing a game in a not yet complete stage and just hoping that they can make enough money from that to continue feeding their development of the game. Some developers go as far as doing that, like creating a game in a not yet finished stage and just getting a shitload of money from that, for instance with Kickstarter or anything like that, and or even pre-release sales on Steam, and then they just abandon the project because they've already made their thousands of dollars, like $50,000 or $100,000 or whatever. There's even been projects on Kickstarter, games on Kickstarter, that reach $1 million even. And then they just abandon the project, which obviously is heavily frowned upon, but yeah, society allows that to happen. People buy into those games, so they allow it to happen. Each time you buy a product, you are literally voting for that product, so people shouldn't really get upset when stuff like that happens. Even when you view a video, you're voting for me right now by watching this video. That's just how it is, and you vote for the developers when you buy their games in pre-release or in early access, so you really shouldn't be upset when the project just falls flat on its face, you know. You bought into an early release game, so you took a chance that you trusted the developer to complete the entire game and all of that, you know. So we are going to start with the mining. Obviously we've got enough houses now, we've chopped off all of the trees around me, we've got enough stockpile, we've got enough crops going, and as you see every day with the daily update, we have enough food and happiness and net worth to keep our guys happy. So, oh, and to also get a new guy every day, obviously. So we will start mining over here. Basically, we will mine that entire piece there, and we will place stockpiles right here, which will only include blocks of stone and metal bars and basically any resources. I will make it so that it is any resources except wood. We obviously don't want wood over here, we want wood back at the location where we first put all of those stockpiles. And that should be pretty good, I think. By the way, this game has a multiplayer functionality, or at least it will eventually have a multiplayer functionality. And you have wealth, literally in the form of coins. Let's see, there. This thing over here is a chest of coins. Basically, your net worth. So if you go here, that net worth right there, let's just see what this guy wants. This net worth over here is stored in chests of gold like this. And in the multiplayer functionality, you can actually steal from your opponents. So on this whole huge map, you will actually see other opponents. Obviously we see the goblins over here, but besides that you will see other opponents. So you can send your warriors and your villagers to their place and steal their gold, i.e. net worth, in the form of these chests of gold. So yeah, just so that you know, there will eventually be a multiplayer functionality where you can actually steal from your opponents. So here we have mined out this rift of the mountain, and we will just mine a little bit more. Unfortunately, you cannot mine a whole rift. Like, what I would like to be implemented is you just click and drag all the way, and it mines all the way back also, but unfortunately you cannot currently do that. You have to mine 4 blocks at a time in a row. So they will just dig out the next 4 line, and once they have done that, we will tell them to mine the next 4. Here is a guy to sell me a few things. I will just basically, each time a guy comes by, I will just sell my beds. Beds are the most important, most valuable stuff that I've found to sell, and it just uses 1 block of wood. So for 1 block of wood you can just sell your beds constantly, and that gives you enough gold. And it's lunchtime once again. Every now and then they gather up here and eat a little bit. I should probably build a dining hall for the poor buggers. Then they don't have to just sit on the floor eating. So let's build a dining hall, and we will just rotate it. And we can build it right there, I think. Just like that. Come on now, there we go. And build. Eventually you can make stone walls and stone columns. Basically, instead of building your entire house out of wood, you can just select those stone columns and stone walls, and you can build your entire city out of stone. I will eventually, before we end the episode today, I will build at least 1 building out of stone, just so that you guys can see how it looks. So you guys can see our village is growing nicely. We currently have for 8, I think 13 villagers currently, so that's pretty good. We have a nice amount of villagers, almost double than what we have started with, so you guys can see the village evolving nicely, becoming bigger. On my other playthrough, I won't show you guys my other playthrough because it literally lags so much at this stage that my recording software won't even be able to record it at 5 frames per second. That's how badly my other game lags, because it's huge. I've got like a huge fucking area, like really as big as this area, just completely filled with stockpiles and houses and all of that. So this guy wants 2 ore, 7 copper ore and 2 juniper logs. That's fine, I've got all of that. The next time he comes, he usually comes within 2 or 3 days, so the next time he comes I will just give that stuff to him. I don't have any problem with that. But even if I didn't have any of those resources, I would be able to smash his face in currently, because I've got I've got 7 workers currently that are free, that I can turn into warriors, and he's only got 1, 2, 3, 4 goblins, of which 2 of those are footmen. So if I send even just 3 footmen to him, 3 warriors to him, I would be able to kill his entire village. So I'm really not afraid of him at this stage. Basically, at the beginning of the game, the only thing you have to worry about is that hopefully the goblins don't want something crazy. Sometimes at the beginning of the game, the goblins ask for like a bolt of cloth or a bolt of silkweed or something like that, and I mean, it's extremely difficult to get a bolt of silkweed or a bolt of cloth at the very beginning. So then what ends up happening is you don't have what the goblin wants, and he comes to your village and it just destroys your village. So I've had that happen once before, but luckily that doesn't happen a lot. Obviously you would have to have quite bad luck in order for that to happen, in order for him to need such a specialized item, like in order for him to requisition such a specialized item from you. That doesn't really happen a whole lot. So let's see if we can maybe create a mason. We can't yet create a mason, for fuck's sake. When will that guy create the mason for me? I think what we will do then, since that bastard doesn't want to... Oh well, we can't even do that. We can't even create a carpenter's saw. This guy is fucking lazy. I just want him to create the mason's hammer and chisel, so that I can then create a mason and get on with doing all of the higher up stuff, like creating a blacksmith and all of that. But the guy is fucking lazy. He's taking long creating all of the stuff. So let's mine the next piece. I am deep enough to the point where I am starting to get coal. So you see your lump of coal. I'm starting to get gold, and I've started to get tin and copper. So, oh, and there's also silver. Silver is also quite rare. So basically the issue is getting iron. Iron is actually very rare. Let's see if I have any iron currently. Tin. Oh, I have 1 iron ore. 1 fucking iron ore. So, oh, and there's some more iron ore. At least 3 iron ore. So the only issue is getting iron ore. So I've already gotten a few, but I should be able to get enough eventually. By the time that I get a blacksmith going, I should have enough iron, hopefully. And then you can start crafting really good stuff. You can start crafting iron. Let's just buy a few of these stones, that's pretty good. You can start crafting stuff like iron swords and pikes and two-handed weapons and iron shields and just really awesome stuff. So we should be able to get to that point in this playthrough. Obviously, eventually, like at the 5-hour mark, you start to build castles, like huge fucking castles, and the game just really starts to become even more fun, since you can equip all of you guys with iron stuff and golden armor eventually, but that's very late. I only just started to be able to craft golden armor in my other playthrough, and my other playthrough is like 8 fucking hours, so yeah. But basically the point of this is I just want to show you guys what the game is about, how fun the game is and all of that. You guys can see at least now they're sitting around the eating table and all of that. And you can actually see what each of them are eating. You can see that this girl is eating corn at this stage. The other one was eating berries, like this one is eating turnips. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty detailed in the stuff. Like if you go close and all of that, it's pretty cool. I like the maneuverability of the camera and all of that, obviously just by pressing and holding the right mouse button, which is the blue click on your screen, by the way. By pressing the right mouse button and holding it, you can turn, you can zoom in as close as you want. So you really have a whole lot of free roaming ability in the entire world. I quite like that. So we will just dig out the next 4 amount of the room over there. Okay, we have our next one, and you can see I'm way ahead of everything. My guys are so happy. I have so much fucking food and my net worth is just through the roof. So we will dig out all of those, and also there at the side. Just like that. Okay, so the village is progressing pretty nicely. I think definitely pretty soon I will create a few warriors and I will go attack the goblins, so that you guys can see how the combat is in the game and all of that. The goblins, this is a pretty small village. I think probably it would have been way bigger. You can see up here is another area, but I think the game glitched a little bit because it placed it here, but half of the goblins village is up on the 2nd level, which I think is probably a glitch. I think the game intended the entire goblin village to be together, like in one piece, but unfortunately the game placed it on this level, which now means that half of the goblin village is split. So I will be able to attack the goblins at the bottom without any of the goblins at the top even reacting. So there you go, and the goblins are happy. They don't have any problem with me. But I can see they are starting to build a barricade over here. So eventually they will probably have a barricade built around their whole village. They build very slowly. But yeah, it's not a problem. They won't be able to get the upper hand over my village, since I already have like twice the amount of villagers that they have. The normal villagers can fight, but they're really quite weak in the pants. It's better to promote your workers to actual fighters, and they can deal quite a bit of damage by even just using the normal little shitty wooden weapons at the beginning. But I should be able to give them iron weapons. So we just mine all of that out there. That's probably the most that I'm going to mine out of this area, since eventually it gets a little bit difficult to mine in there. You can't really go into the mountain too far. There's only a certain amount that you can actually go into the mountain. So, yeah, basically at this stage, you just tell you guys to mine, and you can even get up and leave, let the game run for hours if you really want to. Your village will just grow, get more guys constantly, and you will get more food, your stockpiles will start to fill up and all of that. I actually just realized that I don't have enough sleeping quarters for all of my guys, so I should probably build some more sleeping quarters for my guys. Just there will be fine. I can squish another one in here at the side, but why would I want to do that? Let's build a little community just here, like that. And another one over here. And then I will build a second dining hall over here. Just like that. And we will tell them to build, and build. So they have quite a bunch of stuff to build right now. That should be pretty good. And you can see they're immediately starting building the foundation and all of that. They haven't even finished mining here, I think, or have they? Let's see. If we see any yellow, then we know they haven't finished. Okay, so yeah, they have finished, and luckily I have started getting a good amount of iron. You can see their chunk of iron. We can see a bunch of silver. Silver is used for silversmithing later on, so that's pretty good. That's a good amount of stockpile of ore, all of the kinds of ore that we need. We have silver, and we have tin, and iron, and even gold. So that's pretty good. And we can sell a few more stuff here if we want to. Well, no, I don't think I need to sell anything. I've got enough gold. 1200 gold is quite enough. I don't need to get greedy and sell some of the stuff, because the thing that you have to remind yourself about constantly is that you need an overabundance. You need more than what you actually need constantly, because the goblins' demands just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually, like in my other game, the fucking goblins are asking for like 50 wood and 20 iron ore. I mean, they just get ridiculous with their demands, but you basically have to then just say no, I won't bend to your demands, and then you have to build up a big enough army to go and kill the goblins. So I actually like that. I like the fact that it's a good mechanic. Like, you can either play the diplomat the whole time and just keep the goblins happy, or you can just play very aggressively and go and wipe the goblins out. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I like what the developers have done with the game so far. I really don't have many complaints about the game. I don't usually like games like this, and by that I mean it's a little bit too casual for me. You know, I like my shoot 'em ups and my first person shooters and stuff like that. I don't like casual games like that. I fucking despise games like Farmville. I hate Farmville, and I absolutely refuse to play it. So it is quite surprising that I like this game, but I just think this game does a lot of things right, to the point where even someone like me who likes first-person shooters and stuff like that can actually grow to like a game like this, you know? But yeah, I look at all games that I do and that I review and that I do videos about. I look at all games objectively. Even though I don't like games like this traditionally, I look at the games objectively so that I can give you guys an honest opinion and an informed opinion about the game, so that you guys can then later make an informed buying decision whether you want to buy the game or not. And especially since this game is quite expensive, I mean $30, that's quite a lot. That's almost the price of a AAA title like Call of Duty or Diablo or something like that. So yeah, but I definitely think that the game has a lot of promising aspects for it. They also said on the developers website that they are planning a lot of mod support. So I, to be honest, don't know what kind of mods you would be able to implement in a game like this, but sure, if the developers say that there will be a lot of mod support, then more power to them. You know, a lot of people like mods. I personally don't like a lot of mods. Skyrim mods are pretty good. I like Skyrim with a few mods, but I don't like the mods to overwhelm the game, you know. So mods has its place in certain games, and I don't know, maybe you could get a few mods in this game. Maybe like the developers will just include goblins, but maybe the community will then be able to make mods where you fight zombies or stuff like vampires, and if the vampires bite your villagers, they turn into vampires. You know, you can really make a bunch of stuff with mods. Obviously, that's the point of mods, having a more diverse game through the community. You know, the community can add a whole shitload of content to your actual game, and that has been evident with games like Skyrim, where arguably the community has already created more content than what the actual developers of the game has. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So let's just mine once more in here. I think we should be able to get one more mining turn out of it. All of that there. And that's pretty good. So, let us see, has this bastard created my stuff that I want him to create so far? Let's see. Okay, the game is just saving again, lagging a little bit. And the lag currently isn't really noticeable at all, but trust me, later on we will start lagging a shitload. That bastard still hasn't built a mortar guy for me. The mason. What can I do about that? That's another thing that I said previously about priorities. I really want the developers to implement priorities, because now the guy, the carpenter, is constantly creating all of the other stuff that I told him to create, and is not creating this thing. And I want this thing right fucking now, but it's not possible because you aren't able to set priorities. You know, you can't set the priorities in the game. So what I now basically have to do is I have to watch. What does this guy want? No, I don't need any extra corn. I have to go into my inventory and see what he hasn't created yet. So construction, that he hasn't created that yet. So what I should do then is I should cancel the window frame. Come on. Click there and cancel. Fucking hell, man. Come on. Okay, it's not working now for some reason. You normally just click on the thing that you want, and then you click on the delete button, and that basically removes that item from the queue. But now it doesn't want to do that. For fuck's sake. Okay, so I don't really know what else we can do except then just waiting for the guy to build all of the stuff that he has to build. There's not really anything else that we can do, to be honest. Let's just tell him to create more of these. Maybe he will be more inclined to actually create it then, but yeah, fucking hell, it doesn't seem that we are able to delete the queue for some reason. But yeah, like I said, the game is still in early access, so you shouldn't be surprised when you encounter bugs like this. It's just part of the game, basically. You just have to take it in your stride. So yeah, there's not much we can do about that except just wait until the guy has created all of the stuff that he needs to create. Basically, he just has to go through the entire queue, like this entire fucking queue. He will eventually reach the very bottom because he's doing it in order. So he's doing that one, once he's finished that, he does that one, and then that one, and then that one, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it sucks a little bit because it actually now hampers our progress, unfortunately. The progress which we probably would have been able to now basically promote the guy to a mason. Then the mason will create the tools that are required for the blacksmith, and the blacksmith will create tools that are required to create a specialized miner, and then from there on we can create golden armor, silver armor, iron armor, we can start building castles and all of that. But yeah, unfortunately we are a little bit hampered by the fact that this bastard doesn't want to create that mason's hammer right now. So what we will do now, instead of doing all of that which I have just described, is we will create a bunch of footmen, and we basically just want all of our burly guys, all of the guys that have a lot of body, we will make them into footmen. And okay, it's just saving. We will create them into footmen, and we will go pound the crap out of those goblins. Okay, so that one is a footman, and we can make this one a footman also. Okay, and I'll just show you the promotion. Basically, the guy selects his weapon and then it just hovers into the air a little bit, and then little sparks and stuff goes around the guy. So let's make just one more, I think. I already created 3 now, I think, didn't I? Where's the third one? Okay, this one. Change your job to footmen, and then one more I think will be pretty good. 2, 6, 3, 1, 2. Okay, so it seems this one with 3 is the most, so we will make this guy into a footman also. There we go. Okay, come on now. Where's the 4th one? I already made 4. Fucking hell, I've promoted this one like 3 times already. Daily update, and we now have a population of 15, and that's pretty good. And as you guys see, the village is just growing exponentially. Even my morale is just going up constantly, so my guys are just getting more happier because all of them have beds to sleep in now, all of them have a place to eat now, and they will just grow more and more happy. So this is about the time that we can go to fight all of the guys. Town defense mode won't really help. Let's just have a look here, organize troops into a group, and we basically say add member, And we add all of our warriors. 1, 2, 3. Come on, don't I have 4 warriors by now? I fucking promoted 4. I am 100% certain of that. It's probably that guy with the 6-6 again. Let's see, where's that 6-6 guy? There we go, this guy, 6-6. Change the job. And become a footman, please. Come on. Just do it, he's still idle. Where's Daff? Daff, where are you? Let me just find Daff real quick. Look, he is now demanding more and more stuff. He wants a wooden buckler and he wants a dining table, and I say, go stuff yourself. What? You say now? Then we take all things. Well, be my guest, because I am just going to pound the crap out of you. Here's Daff. Daff is stuck on the table over here. So that's probably why he... Okay, let's just go to the normal speed. That's probably why he won't obey my commands. So let's make another warrior. And let's make another warrior. And let's make another warrior. We're just basically going to pound the crap out of these guys. Okay, I don't have any more warrior slots. And I already heard some attacking somewhere, so there's definitely some attacking happening somewhere. So let's organize our guys into a party, add a member, add that guy and add that guy. So now we have a party of 5. And we basically then just tell our guys to go attack. Just basically they should be able to walk past here. Yes, that looks like enough space over there to walk past there. So that shouldn't be too bad. And we are going to poon Chieftain Sal the Magnanimous. Go over here. There we go. Attack right there. And you guys will see all of my warriors get this little warrior icon above their head, and the music changes. So let's see. Poon him. Oh, they're not even attacking the chieftain, they're just going straight for the village. And there's an indication on their head about their health and all of that, but I shouldn't lose any guys. I think my guys should just be able to overwhelm my opponents at all. Okay, so far none of my guys have died. Okay, one of my guys just died, unfortunately. Attack the chieftain, for fuck's sake. Don't attack the village, attack the chieftain. There we go. Attack the chieftain. These two guys are just standing here like fucking nothing. Okay, there we go. And the chieftain died. Come on, attack more. So I lost one guy because I sent 5 warriors. So losing one guy and destroying an entire goblin village really is a very good deal. I'm quite happy with that. And he dropped a giant bone mace, which I'm certain is pretty damn powerful. and there's the very last goblin. But the goblin workers do very little damage, luckily. Okay, so that's basically the way how you take care of goblins. Now, there will be more goblins in other places on the map, although I don't see any. I think basically the reason why that goblin village that was close to me was revealed is because they actually communicated with me. They issued orders and demands to me, so they were automatically revealed. But normally the stuff isn't revealed. And in the chest you get a bunch of ore, gold ore, silver ore, just basically a bunch of really rare ore and all of that. And the tombstone of my little guy, I can take it and I can move it to my village if I want to. And my villagers will occasionally mourn their fallen buddy. And all of this stuff should eventually be taken back to my little village. I could go and attack the place up here also. There's a little bit of wood there, you see. And I think actually the reason why the village, the goblin village, didn't expand all that much is because their wood stockpile was put up here. So yeah, basically they did grow in population. At the beginning I showed you guys, I think there was only like 3 or 4. Yeah, there were 4 goblins. There were 2 warriors and 2 normal little goblins, but I mean there were clearly more goblins when I attacked them just now. So they did grow in population, but they didn't really grow in any other ways, because basically all of their resources that they started with were up here, and they had no way to climb to the top. And I don't think the AI is advanced enough at the stage to actually see, okay, well, our stockpile of wood is way up there, we can't access it, so then what we need to do is we need to start chopping down wood and trees. I don't think the AI is advanced enough yet. But obviously eventually the AI will be improved and all of that. And even the placement mechanics will be improved so that this doesn't happen again. But believe me, normally the goblins pose quite a huge threat because they just expand and get out of hand if you don't take care of them early in the game. So yeah, as you guys can see, unfortunately, I think this little bastard still hasn't built me my mason. Yeah, I still can't create a mason because I don't have my mason's mallet. So, and this other guy over here is still stuck. This daff guy over here is still stuck. So there's definitely a few things that still needs to be flashed out about the game and all of that. Obviously the game is not yet complete and all of that. It should be complete by my guesstimation within a year maybe, and then hopefully once it is complete and released, the community will create a shitload of mods and community content and all of that. But yeah, I really like the game quite a lot in this stage already. I mean, just imagine if I like the game in this stage, how cool will the game be when it is eventually fully released, you know? So yeah, I quite like that. You just saw the fox disabling my trap over there. He actually stepped with his paw on my trap because the fox is quite wily, you know, quite sneaky. So it's one of the few creatures that can actually disable your traps. Usually the rabbits and the raccoons and all of the other stuff, they just fall into the traps. So yeah guys, that's basically it. Unfortunately, I would have wanted to show you guys a huge stone castle and all of that, but you need a mason in order to build stone buildings, and after that you can build like what I can currently create. A wooden sword. You can eventually create iron swords, long swords, pikes, iron shields, iron armor, golden armor, silver armor. Just really, it goes progressively higher in the chain of the quality of your buildings and the quality of your whole place. And you can also build fences. I never bother with the wooden fence, but you can actually build a wooden fence. I will show you guys here. This picket fence, you can build picket fence all the way down, and you also get a stone fence, like build a stone wall all the way down here, and then put a massive gate here and the watchtowers. You can build the watchtowers eventually and all of that. So the game can really progress a massive amount eventually. And I mean, look, we've only been playing like, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half or whatever now. It feels like an hour and a half. And that's just how much fun you can have with this game. Time flies by. It's really fun. I'm sure there's more goblins hiding away around here somewhere, but yeah, even like I said at the beginning for you guys, I put the draw distance on 500, where the draw distance can be put on 1,000. And I mean, look at this. I'm that far away and I can still see all of my villagers. I can still interact with everything. Basically everything in the screen I can still interact with, and I'm zoomed out maximum. I can't zoom out any more than this. So the draw distance really doesn't matter. You can put the draw distance on 500. It basically makes the lag much less for some reason, because if you put the draw distance on 1,000, you really lag a lot. The shadows also make you really lag a lot, and lag is really an issue later in the game. Currently there's like almost no lag. I mean, guys can clearly see I can move freely, I can zoom in and out, there's no lag. Like I said, my PC can handle just about any damn game. But later on the game, in like about an hour or so, if I play even more, the idle percentage will go even lower. Like I showed you guys at the beginning, it was 90% idle. Then after that it was around 70% idle. Right now it's still around 70%. It's jumping 80%, 64%, 70%. So it's still hovering around 70%, but that's basically because I didn't expand my place anymore from the previous time that I showed you guys the idle percentage. But believe me, if you build more stuff, if I build this entire place full, the idle percentage will go down to maybe as low as 20%, and that's when you really see a huge frame drop. So yeah, but currently I don't have any lag problems, and you shouldn't have any lag problems with the game unless you really build a very expensive city. But I mean, the developers should clean up all of this lag problems and all of the AI problems. Like this guy is still fucking stuck up there. They should obviously clean out all of the streamlining of the AI and all of that stuff eventually, including the farm problem. If you make your farms much bigger, for some reason it makes a huge impact on the performance. But yeah, you just play around that by making a bunch of little small farms. That's really not even a problem. It doesn't really affect you, just as long as you play around that little stuff. So yeah guys, that's basically the game. I'm just gonna save the game, and then we can basically make the conclusion of the game. And yeah, I really like the game. I would definitely recommend that you guys play the game, that you guys buy the game. I know $30 is a whole lot, and I understand that for a game that is still in early access. I mean, I paid $30 for the game. It's not like I got the game for free or anything like that. $30 for an early access game is a lot. So I will definitely understand if you guys want to maybe wait until the game is fully released, like maybe within a year, like I said, the game should be fully released. But if you guys don't want to spend $30 on a game that is pre-release, I understand that, but I do in fact recommend that you get the game and that you play the game. So the verdict for this episode of Play or Neigh is play. Definitely play. I really enjoyed the game. Even for the early access game, I've already spent more than 30 hours playing the game, and it's really enjoyable. I really like the game. So yeah, guys, I hope I showed you guys enough to entice you into possibly purchasing the game, or when the game is actually fully released, then possibly purchasing the game. But obviously, all of these little problems that I showed you guys here will probably be worked out and won't even be present in the full release of the game. So yeah, guys, that's basically it. Thanks a lot for watching another episode of Play or Neigh, and I'll see you next time.